Rise and shine, grab your coffee, buckle up. We have got a good one for you today. The Carrier Dome is where we are on the campus of Syracuse University. It's the Orange that'll welcome in the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, two teams that have garnered respect in the polls this season. Syracuse recently dropping out of the top 25. You take a look at the standings. Louisville, NC State, 1 and 2 in the country, going to square off tomorrow night on ESPN2. That's a must-watch, but so is ours today, with Syracuse and Notre Dame side by side battling for that 4 spot. And we welcome you into our respective homes alongside Georgetown great Monica McNutt. I'm Sam Bravich. Great to have you with us here today. Monica, January, end of January. Head down into February, getting down to crunch time here. We got 4 versus 5. What strikes you in this matchup?
Well, in this one, between these two teams, for Notre Dame, Sam, the growth. They're 4-2 in the month of January, and quite honestly, I think they look like a much more mature and better team at this point than when the month started. On the other side, for Syracuse, tough loss versus a very feisty Clemson squad. They bounced back with the win over Pittsburgh. They had 9 players score and 5 in double figures. I'm wondering how that translates into this matchup today.
A big part of that bounce back has been Emily Engstler. Since this team has come off their COVID pause, she has been great.
Absolutely. She's averaging a double-double, Sam, but she's focused so much on her body in the offseason. It has paid great dividends this year. I love her on the backside of the zone. She does a great job of rebounding. She can run the floor, pull up and knock down a 3, or get all the way to the rim and finish around the basket through contact.
4 double-doubles in the last 5 games, 12 points, 13 boards in the last one against Pitt, as you said. Great defender, great rebounder. Has led this team in so many games off the bench. Now, on the other side for Notre Dame, it has been the freshman phenom, Maddie Westbeld.
She's been tremendous, wise and productive beyond her years. She's the only freshman to rank 5th, at least 5th, in all 5 categories, scoring and rebounding, where she's 1 and 2 among freshmen respectively, and then assists, blocks, and blocks as well. Coach Ivey has talked a great deal about how her body was prepared for the collegiate game.
Ready for tip here in the legendary Carrier Dome. We, of course, wish we were there, Monica, but we'll settle for calling the game in our house. Camila Cardoso ready to tip for Syracuse, and she ends up getting the ball as Mabry tips it right back to her.
Cardoso, another one of the dynamic freshmen in this game, certainly in the same conversation as Westbeld in terms of productivity.
Early turnover there, and Maddie Westbeld will carry the ball up the floor for the Irish. Turns it right over to Tiana Mangakahia. Numbers for Syracuse. Mangakahia settles for 3 and knocks it down.
Settle sounds like it's a bad decision, Sam. That was a great decision. It's certainly good to see Tiana hitting shots early in a ball game. She's had such a tremendous journey, and I applaud her willingness to be so vulnerable about all that she's gone through in her return from her well-documented battle with breast cancer last year.
Still kind of battling to get back to the freedom that she once played with. Still has to take some medicine, and it has not been easy for her, but man, the fight that is within Tiana Mangakahia is one we should all strive to have.
Indeed. Indeed, indeed. Now, Syracuse here showing some man, and they're gonna, Coach Ivey talked with us about preparing for the different defensive looks that Syracuse throws at you as Michaela Vaughn takes a few too many steps that time.
There's Coach Q, Coach Quentin Hillsman. Got a chance to talk to him yesterday. Has really built this program into a perennial postseason attendee, 12 consecutive trips to the postseason. And he runs his Syracuse program like a tight ship, but he's pretty open as far as the improvement that this team needs. A lot of newcomers, 7 newcomers to this team, so still learning the system. There's Digna Stroutmanet, had the shot partially blocked, and Dara Mabry up the floor now.
I love Stroutmanet, what she brings to the table. Has started in every game that she's played in for the Orange, but on the flip side of that, as Michaela Vaughn comes up with a good offensive rebound and put back to find some momentum. Last year, when I had this game at Notre Dame, Michaela Vaughn had a big game against Syracuse.
Coach Niele Ivey, of course, in her first season at Notre Dame, taking over for the Hall of Famer Muffet McGraw, who retired with 936 career wins. Big shoes to fill, but if there's somebody to fill them, gotta think Niele Ivey could be that person to do it.
Definitely. You knew that she was the head coach in waiting, and I was among the crowd that was uncertain when that would happen, and I expected her to do well with the Memphis Grizzlies and at the NBA level, so for it to come full circle so quickly, the women's basketball world certainly rejoiced.
Here's a kick out for 3. Priscilla Williams, the freshman. One of 4 players in double figures in the win on Thursday against Pitt.
So, Sam, when people say a word twice, it's for emphasis, right? So Priscilla Williams is a shooter, okay? She hit 8 threes in the game this year already, and so she's got a bright green light. She has got that high release. She's got a great height and frame that she can just kind of shoot over defenders, and I love it.
It's now the 3rd turnover for Notre Dame in this early part of the first quarter.
And technically, we're still playing morning basketball, so both teams looking to settle in a bit.
Williams underneath, can't get the roll, but there's Camila Cardoso with the board, lost it. Anaya Peoples trying to go coast to coast, misses, but there's Mickey Vaughn, can't get that one to go. Another opportunity coming for Notre Dame.
And when you look at the players on the floor right now starting this ball game for Coach Ivey, 4 of them can get out and start the break. And you saw Anaya Peoples that time unable to finish. And of course, Tiana Mangakahia does a great job of hunting the paint, finding her teammate, this time the hockey assist in many ways. Basically just a swing to Kiera Lewis, who we know is a gamer for this team.
Preseason All-ACC selection, has kind of struggled finding her shot, but man, she still finds a way to score. The numbers don't really show what she does on the floor, like things like that. Just misses though.
Yeah, Kiera, I'm thinking of Gabby, who was a running mate last year, but Kiera can be a bit streaky. I think she's at her best when she gets a chance to create some energy and momentum when she can attack the paint, and then her jump shot starts to open up a little bit, but she's not one to rely solely on her jump shot.
9-2, Syracuse on top at home, 6:20 left to go. The whistle blows on the floor.
This is some quality offense by the Orange. Your point guard hunting the paint. The defense has to account for her. Stratman, Naya, wonderful 3-point shooter as well. Close out, don't get to the corner quick enough. And Kiera Lewis makes the Irish pay.
Well, this Syracuse team is not necessarily known for being a great 3-point shooting team, but a good start, 3 for 4 here today as Anaya Peoples knocks down the first free throw.
Last year, in our studio show, Ladies Nights on Thursdays, my good friend Kelly Grumlick and I, we kind of went back and forth on whether or not Syracuse should continue to shoot as many threes as they shot, because last year it wasn't necessarily efficient. But there were certainly some marquee games and buzzer beaters. Digna Stratman hit one last year late to win a ball game. I can't remember who the opponent was, but it was an ACC game. So this year, as a unit, they are shooting better from behind the arc.
Could see some zone from both these teams and could see some pressure on both sides. There's Cardoso, and the size there just showing in full force as Camila Cardoso puts that one back up, averaging 14.1 a game.
It is so imperative that when you are playing with someone with that type of size to diligently box out in a way that it can't be denied, as Abby Prohaska gets that short corner jumper to fall. Having said that, though, Sam, I also don't believe you should penalize Cardoso for her height. And in that instance, I was perfect no call.
Right, yeah, in some instances may have looked like an over the back, and I'm sure a lot of them have this season, but that one just kind of reaching over and plucking the ball out of the air.
Literally.
Mangakahia way downtown. That's off the mark, and Prohaska with the board.
I like the shots that she's taken. The pump fake, she had a great clean look. Shooter shoot to stay hot and shooter shoot to get hot.
A quick 3 in transition for Destiny Walker, the graduate student from Orlando, Florida.
We've got 2 strong candidates for 6th Woman of the Year, in fact, in this ball game. Destiny Walker is making a case for that, as is Emily Engster.
Here's Dara Mabry, another 3 in transition. That's no good.
Mabry's had a really strong month of January, running that point guard spot for Coach Ivey.
That's what Coach Q said. When his team can move in transition and get some buckets, that's when they can become dangerous.
And so much of that is contingent on what they can do on the defensive end. When they get rebounds or get steals, and they can beat opponents down the floor.
Sam Burnell getting on the board here, the sophomore from Ruckersville, Virginia, named preseason All-ACC. Also on the Naismith Trophy watch list after a great freshman year, but hasn't really been able to get completely healthy this year and is coming off the bench. knocked out of bounds, and it will stay with Syracuse. We got a good one here, 2-point game in the early goings, but Syracuse from 3 has been great so far. 3 for 7 to start it off. That's 42%. They lead by 2. Two more games after hours coming up, 2 Eastern. Clemson in Winston-Salem squaring off against Wake Forest, and we cap off the afternoon with Virginia Tech hosting North Carolina in Blacksburg right here on the ACC Network, and of course you can watch on the ESPN app. Here in the Carrier Dome, 13-11, Notre Dame on a 9-4 run since Syracuse started the game on a 9-2 run, overcoming those 5 turnovers in the first 11 trips down the floor. Here's Kiera Lewis out of the timeout from 3. No good. Strong rebound from Sam Brunell.
Lewis is she's a willing three-point shooter. I actually like the looks that she's gotten so far today. That one just a little bit strong, but Syracuse is back in their signature zone. And literally, Sam Brunell immediately to this kill spot for any zone, and it's going to be that high post where she can both knock that shot down and she can be a great facilitator.
4 points for Brunell here in the first quarter. Led all freshmen in the ACC in scoring average last year, and there's Stroutman underneath the basket, putting that one in.
I actually think that was Enksler, partner.
Enksler, excuse me.
The pass from Jabdi Taldi, though, was terrific. Oh, man, I like this action we got around the rim from both of these teams. Michaela Vaughn making herself a big presence. Now, here we go. We talked about the kill spot in any zone. Jabdi Taldi, great high-low to the cutting Enksler, who slips in between 2, maybe 3 Notre Dame jerseys. And then on the other end, Michaela Vaughn, Mickey Vaughn, rim running, hands ready, finishing, and completing the play and one, partner. It's a 3-point play.
So Notre Dame now up by 1 with 3:23 left to go. First lead of the game for the Irish.
Yeah, and you and I, as we prepared for this game with our terrific game day crew, we talked a lot about the defensive schemes that we'll see in this game. And here, it's a matchup zone now that the Irish have gone to, and it yields them some results as Brunell comes up with the steal.
In transition, let's see what Notre Dame can do. Back out for Sam Brunell, a long 3. That is something that she has improved drastically this year, Monica.
She wants to know who said it's tough to shoot in a dome. Who said it and why?
Fighting Irish, 6 of their last 7 from the field. They lead by 4 now. Here's Mangakahia, straight away center, no good. Prohaska bobbles the rebound and up quickly.
Great pass ahead.
Destiny Walker for 3, no good.
You know,
nice save there by Stroutman.
Hustle, all out. We love it when a white jersey doesn't finish a game white because you've been diving on the floor for loose balls. But interestingly enough, I think these teams mirror one another a bit, Sam, in that they are both, to me, playing their best basketball when they do not have to get deep into the shot clock. So whether it be transition, secondary break, or just playing the half court with a certain amount of snap, crackle, and pop, right? The pace in the half court that allows them to get good looks before that thing gets under 12-10.
That's a good look right there underneath for Sam Brunell. Racking up the points here early. Now she's got 7.
Yeah, great vision by Dara Mabry. Some would say a dangerous pass, but right on the money.
Knocked away. There's Dara Mabry in the open floor. Great hands and the finish.
Active hands, and she's had a tremendous January for this squad, really helping to settle this Irish team. Coach Ivey talked with us about, you know, their ability to compete and to finish late in games. When you look at their schedule, I believe the margin it's about 5 in terms of their wins and losses in the month of January. And Dara's competitive edge, her shooting, her leadership, obviously the transfer from Virginia Tech has been big for this team as they've continued to take strides.
Camila Cardoso checking back in the game for Syracuse. Yeah, Dara Mabry coming off a team-high 23-point performance, went 5 for 10 from 3 in the loss to UNC last week. Notre Dame has had a full week off coming into today. Way to break the zone there on Notre Dame's side.
The high-low is going to be interesting for both of these teams to follow. I mean, Sam Brunell can make that pass. Michaela Vaughn, if she's there, can make that pass. Obviously, the recipient that time down. I love the focus so far from both of these teams.
Largest lead for Notre Dame. They lead by 10. That three is no good from Kiera Lewis. After starting 3 for 4 from 3, 0 for 7 from long range since. There's another long one, and that falls in.
I think that is what we call the positive announcer drinks.
Destiny Walker.
Just as you were talking about the drought, partner. I will say with that range that Walker is showing, the Syracuse is going to have to get a little bit more active when they go to their zone looks.
Well, that's how you want to finish a quarter on the road. Notre Dame on top 28-15. Speaking of Notre Dame, former Notre Dame star Jordan Cornette will join us to talk about the game later on tonight from the Dome. Welcome back to the Dome. We got a lot of action early in the morning and also later in the evening. We welcome in now Jordan Cornette, ACC Network analyst, radio host, and Bachelor connoisseur. Jordan, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. You know, Sam, you and Monica got a great one on your hands with Notre Dame and Syracuse. I got to get my Go Irish in there. But later on tonight, it's going to be a very fascinating matchup. Is this going to be a Syracuse team that look how they did versus Virginia Tech, winning, going away with it? Are they going to look like the team that struggled to score versus Virginia? It all starts with Buddy Boeheim getting going. Can he establish himself? And as for NC State, they're going to be without their star Devin Daniels for the first time who tore his ACL versus Wake. Where's the offense going to come from? It's going to be tough to figure out in the Carrier Dome versus that matchup zone.
Looking forward to it. Jordan Cornette and Wes Durham on the call. Going to be a good one. Thank you, Jordan.
Going to be a great one. Thanks, Sam.
Well, we thank Jordan Cornette, the former Irish standout, for giving us some tidbits on the game coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern on the ACC Network. NC State and Syracuse playing on the same floor that we have right now. And by the way, can we just give a shout out to our production crew? They're pulling double shifts here today, Monica.
Indeed, yes. A tip of the cap, and later on when you finish the men's game, have yourself a beverage of your choice. Also, shout out to JC, such a cool dude. Cornette, I miss you, buddy. We haven't had a chance to work together in studios this year, but I love catching up with him and Dallin in the studios on Saturday nights when they're locked in on men's college basketball. Great dudes.
Well, we got a good one here. And it was all Notre Dame at the end of that first quarter, but it was Syracuse that got out to a hot start. But a 20-point swing in the first quarter for Notre Dame. Trailed by 7 early, and then led at the end of 15-0 run over the last 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
Interestingly enough, although that last possession for Syracuse didn't result in a basket, the pass from Cardoso to Williams is what I think Syracuse needs more of. More action toward the basket in their half-court set. I thought they settled for jump shots, whereas on the other end, the Irish kept pushing, forcing the issue out in transition, playing some passing lanes, gambling a little bit on defense that paid off, and finishing in the paint.
Tiana Mangakahia coming back in the game for Kiera Lewis.
The coolest thing about, I know we don't love empty arenas, and of course we are all looking forward to the end of our pandemic, but it is really cool to kind of hear some of the audio from players communicating on the court. It's something that I've really enjoyed.
No doubt. Here's Cardoso from the elbow. No good, and Brunel with a rebound.
She looked just a tad tentative to me on that shot. Like she was hoping that it would go in as opposed to shooting with full-on confidence.
Back out to Brunel, no good, and knocked out of bounds by Mickey Vaughn.
Now, this is interesting because, to me, some of Syracuse's comebacks have come with about, or should I say, started with about 3 minutes to go in the second and then really blossomed in the third quarter over the course of some games where they've been down, particularly in that Clemson matchup I'm referencing. But on the same side, as Coach Neil Ivey has talked about her team growing and being able to compete for an entire basketball game, Notre Dame, too, has been susceptible to letting go of some leads. So the second quarter could be very interesting.
Nice pass and find down low. Maeva Jaldi Tabdi couldn't finish. Kick back out to Williams for 3. And that goes off the top of the backboard and out of bounds. A couple of substitutes coming in. Specifically, you see the moment there. Olivia Miles coming in, the number 8 overall recruit, came to Notre Dame early because her high school was not playing. You're starting to see that kind of throughout the conference, but this could be a huge bump to this Notre Dame team.
Definitely. You can't see me, partner, but I'm smiling because this is exciting. Not only was Olivia, or is she, highly touted in terms of the class of 2021, immediately after Coach Ivy's announcement, I want to say less than 2 days later, Olivia made it official that she would be joining the Irish, and so that just speaks to how excited, again, the women's basketball world was to have Miel back at the helm of her alma mater. 17 total years on that campus, participating as a player or an assistant.
Here's Miles with the ball now. And shot clock violation as Peoples couldn't get it off. So Olivia Miles came to Notre Dame early, like we said, but only arrived January 18th, had to enter the quarantine and COVID protocols. First practice was just a few days ago, and by the way, just turned 18 on January 29th. 18 years old now. Thrust into a Carrier Dome game against Syracuse on the road in her first collegiate game. So I'm sure a lot of emotions are being thrown around by the team, her parents, and rightfully so. But congratulations and welcome to Division I college basketball, Olivia Miles.
Indeed. Lots of excitement around her. I literally, let's see, could I have gone to campus early? I was such a hot mess in my first preseason. I could only imagine going in live to the middle of a season.
And only 3 days of practice. 3 practices, that's it.
3 days of
That's
practice.
all you get to learn the whole, that's like learning, like a quarterback learning a playbook in a day. Like,
now,
good luck.
I tell you, very much so, good luck. But I will say, of the young women that we've seen do this, and Ali Vantameren comes to mind at BC, you can bet that they've got folks around them as Maddie Westbeld finishes there that would encourage them whether or not they can handle it, right? And so we're super excited to see what Olivia Miles brings to the table. She has a high basketball IQ. I'm sure that Coach Ivy would not have thrown her out there if she didn't have some degree of faith that she could handle the moment.
Correct, and probably a good time to put her in. Up 15 on a 17-0 run. Get her in early and often.
I love this, Maddie Westbeld as your point forward. Syracuse has switched. Oh man.
Mabry, too many steps there.
Yeah, Syracuse, initially they showed a man, but then they did not necessarily go with the screen action. So they're looking to try to get this Notre Dame squad a little bit off balance, switching and masking some defenses.
Ball movement around the perimeter, back out to Lewis for 3, and Kira Lewis now has 6.
Of course she knocks down that 3, as I'm thinking that Syracuse is settling a bit for the jump shot instead of putting some pressure on that defense. But that one, she did get that look because the ball goes inside to Jabi Taldi first.
First field goal in over 7 minutes, but right back on the other end, there's Maddie Westbeld with 4 now.
She and Brunel are so good in that high-low action, and Irvon, the 3 of them can all rotate, and people sometimes to that spot, but Maddie is so good finishing.
Good ball movement here, same spot for Lewis, no good, the rebound and put back by Digma Stroutman.
Stroutman is sneaking in for that weak side second chance opportunity.
Her first points of the game. Olivia Miles breaks the double team easily. And the easy pass and the easy finish. It looks easy for somebody playing in their first collegiate basketball game here.
I'd say the newbie is quite all right.
She looks comfortable.
It's just basketball. I kind of want, I love that.
Maeva Jaldi Tabdi there.
I was just about to say, I kind of wanted both M and Maeva to look to seal that back line, but that was a great catch by Jabi Taldi. She's coming off of a terrific game against Pittsburgh.
Looks like some easy transition buckets for Notre Dame here. Syracuse struggling to get back a little bit.
Yeah, that after a make, sometimes Syracuse goes with that full quarter, 3/4 court pressure, but Notre Dame has really handled it in stride.
Good hands and a steal from Olivia Miles. Miles with numbers, kicks it out to Mabry. A dribble and a pop off the front iron.
Love the unselfishness of the rookie, but I kind of wish he had held on to that one there.
The reverse and the bucket and the foul for Emily Angsler. We'll step aside, but how about Olivia Miles arriving to Notre Dame in January? 3 practices, and she is in her first collegiate basketball game today.
You're talking about practice, Sam? We're talking about practice, not a game. Let's talk games as Olivia Miles makes her presence known.
No matter which shade of blue you bleed.
This rivalry is the very best that college basketball has to offer.
And welcome back. Performance primetime. Maeva Jaldi Tabdi had a great game Thursday against Pitt. 15 minutes, but scored 17 points, 3 rebounds. They need her to kind of have another one of those performances here today.
Yeah, it certainly would be beneficial.
Help, right?
Interestingly enough, she's been subbed, as you see her taking her spot on the bench there. But I loved what she does in terms of her being physical, right? And it doesn't always show up in the stat sheets. But to me, she's one of those players that you can bank on using her body to defend, to disrupt some cuts. She's going to crash the glass. She's going to be a big presence. I love the way she had been able to seal the back line of that Notre Dame zone. I hope that either Priscilla or Emily does the same thing, because it was working. Well, Camilla's back in now as well.
Tough pass through some white jerseys from Olivia Miles, turns it over, trying to go quickly, but Miles gets it right back.
It's a terrific mistake response. One of my favorite coaches used to say that. You're going to have mishaps in the game. How do you respond? Turnover, she gets it back on the other end and finishes.
First collegiate points for Olivia Miles. Congratulations. Lewis likes that spot today, but misses there. Priscilla Williams with the rebound, and it will go Notre Dame way.
Miles here gets a hand in the passing lane, comes up with it, using both hands, skip, finish. Man, just cool, calm, and collected.
I think we're seeing some of her strengths early in this one. She likes to push the ball and in control as well, but not that time. Left her feet a little bit early and then fouled Tiana Mangakahia.
As terrific as her start has been, she is indeed I don't even know, does she count as a true freshman, Sam? Like, what's a better word to describe her position? But the learning starts early. And, you know, it's funny. We're talking about Olivia Miles, but Coach Q had pretty much the same sentiment. He's got 7 newcomers. You mentioned that in our open, Sam. And while they have had the opportunity to practice, this is certainly an odd year. And so he talks about the 11 games that his team has played. Essentially, that's what they played in the non-conference schedule all of last year. So there's still a lot of growing that he expects from his group.
Emily Angsler's 3 is off the mark. So after starting 4 for 5, 1 for 16 now from long range. Might want to start looking down low a little bit more. And to cut through that zone as Maddie Westbell tacks on a couple more. She's now got 8.
Yeah, the Irish are cutting through the zone with precision.
Mila Cardoso in the and 1.
There's that backside of the zone, though. That's the same spot that Maeva was finding some success in, and this time Cardoso with more height through 2, drawing the contact there. You know, yes, you shoot folks out of a zone, but you also have to make the zone work and shift. And if it's just cross-court passes without attacking the gaps or looking to go inside, it's not quite as effective.
So Cardoso finishes the and 1 there. All right, Tuesday we'll have a special college basketball tripleheader. Starts at 5 Eastern with Wake Forest taking on Notre Dame, followed by an 11-5 North Carolina team that needs a win. And they play Clemson, wrap up the night with number 16 Florida State and BC. You can watch all those games, of course, on the ESPN app if you are out and about. Mangakahia steps into 1 and buries it. Tiana Mangakahia, a couple of threes. She has 6 now.
There's certainly a lot of ball game left, but I've been impressed with Notre Dame's poise.
Priscilla Williams, a three in transition, a high arcing one that bounces out of bounds to the Fighting Irish. Are you okay with them continuing to take all of these threes? I mean, they are open shots, and theoretically they could hit some of them, but they just haven't really been falling yet.
Well, if they're open, Sam, yeah, you got to hit them, and you got to be confident in that. Priscilla Williams is shooting 40% from three in conference, so I'm completely okay with that shot. In fact, had she hit it, it energizes the group because I love threes in transition. Emily Inkster, although she's only taken 19, she's 50% from three. Kiara Lewis is 29% from three. Tiana Mangakahia is 33% from three. So, yes, but they have to be good looks. The last one that Tiana hit and the last one that Priscilla took, I'm certainly okay with. But now, in the half court, you've got to shift this zone.
Now it looks like a little bit more man-to-man, but switching now into a 2-3 again. Offensive foul going the other way. Prohaska had the feet set against Cardoso. First personal for Cardoso. Coach Q not really happy with the call there.
Now, the basket obviously won't count, but that's sort of the action that you got to see to shift the zone. Make them address the back line and Cardoso and all of the space that she takes up. And then there was a kick out, and Williams hit that three that didn't count.
Prohaska down low to Westbeld, back out to Prohaska. Shot clock at 10.
This is good defense by Syracuse, and if you listen closely, you can actually hear them talking.
Kara Mabry's three, no good. Falls to Brunell and puts it right back up.
That is so deflating after a great defensive possession. You had the Irish exactly where you wanted them, under 10 seconds on the shot clock. And then you give up an offensive rebound.
Fingertip got on it, off of Cardoso for Syracuse. So you already got Sam Brunell with 13 points, Maddie Westbeld with 10. Those two play well together, and I thought it was interesting how you mentioned that you really like them when they're on the floor together because they play off of each other well.
Definitely, and both are high basketball IQ players. Sam Brunell was one of my favorite freshmen last year. This year she's battled a few injuries, but I'm sure she'll get back to it as Priscilla Williams is able to connect on through.
Williams averaging 12.2 over the last 5 games, 5-star recruit for Coach Q, number 9 recruit in the 2020 class.
I used to love those corner threes in a zone after someone attacked the gap on the wing and drew the back line up.
Brunell, long three with the shot clock winding down, no good. And that will end the first half with Notre Dame ahead of Syracuse with 10 points going into the half.
Kiara Lewis doing her part to keep her team in this ball game. She's got 6 and has hit 2 threes. On the other end, the freshman, she's here to make an impact, Olivia Miles.
Welcome back to the Dome. Syracuse trailing Notre Dame by 10. About to start the third quarter, but before we do, we again welcome you into our homes. Alongside Monica McNutt, I'm Sam Ravitch. Great to have you with us here this morning, now into the afternoon. But Monica, Syracuse started out really hot, 3 for 4 from 3. They had a big lead, but then Notre Dame started chipping into that lead by really dissecting that zone of Syracuse.
Dissecting is literally the perfect word, Sam. The precision that they showed in terms of finding the best way to attack the zone. The high-low was one of them. Sam Brunell to Maddie Westbeld has been a tremendous connection, not just in this game, but honestly, we talked about their progress over the course of the month. The dead spot in the zone is in the middle. And anytime you can get to the middle, you can create opportunities. But of course, second chance opportunities off the glass don't hurt either.
That's Syracuse on the other side, Monica. They were able to have some ball movement, find some threes for Kiara Lewis, but the shooting got a little bit cold.
Yeah, and that's okay because I think this is a group that is confident in their ability to hit the three. But what I did not like is that I felt that they sort of settled for the three as opposed to working to shift the zone, find the gaps, and then take the three. And so when you look at these numbers, the Notre Dame bench productivity outweighs Syracuse drastically when you look at points off the bench.
Yeah, 21 points off the bench for Notre Dame. So they were really solid towards the end of that second half.
Now, Sam, before we get into this action in the second half, I understand you have some artwork behind you, and there's a new addition to the collection.
We do have a new addition. Amaya Finkley actually drew this one right above my head. You see the Syracuse orange there. Let me zoom out a little bit more so we can see. Yeah, there we go.
Fancy.
But yes, it's a very good one, and she actually drew another one. But these other ones are from UCLA Mattel's hospital, so Children's Hospital. But yes, Amaya is great. I had to add and give a little shout out to Amaya Finkley's work. She does great work and very animated too. The orange with the smile.
Could you draw back in the day, Sam?
No.
I could never do this. I could never do this.
No. Not even close. So we love that, and we thank Amaya for brightening up our open shots and all of our camera shots for us, and making them a little bit more. I don't know what's the right word. More
colorful.
Art-worthy? Yeah, colorful.
There you go.
There we go.
Colorful. I might have been able to give you some good block letters back in my peak in high school when we used to draw in our planners at my delightful all-girls high school. Shout out the Holy Cross. But other than
that's
that,
about it.
there's. Yeah, that's about it. I do have a vase I made in pottery class still in my house.
I could give you stick figures. That's about it. But
okay.
All right, so we're starting the second half, and we have known Notre Dame to falter a little bit down the stretch. They recently did so against UNC last week. They also did so kind of in dramatic fashion against Boston College earlier this year. So unfortunately, that's kind of a label that has been put on them. What do they need to do to hold off Syracuse and maintain this 10-point lead?
Well, basketball is a game of runs, and so I'm not going to berate them too much for that. However, they've got to commit defensively. Syracuse, as you can see already, is going to make a little bit more of a concerted effort to move that zone. And this is exactly that. So they've got to keep their hands active. They've got to close, shrink down some of those passing lanes, and then they've got to handle the pressure after Syracuse makes. On the other end, for Cuse, they've got to attack everything that Notre Dame presents defensively. No one has really gotten to the free throw line in this ballgame on either side, Sam. 2 free throws in the first half for Syracuse and 3 for Notre Dame. To me, that means no one's being truly as aggressive as they should be, because there should be more contact. Basketball is a contact sport.
No doubt. We've seen quite a few transition points, whether those be straight to the hoop or kicking it out for 3 in this game. Lots of good ball movement. Also got to see who can handle the ball better in this second half. Syracuse is one of the best teams in the nation in steals, ranked 2nd, and there's a shot clock violation. They turn their opponents over fairly frequently, but we'll see if they can capitalize on those turnovers as well, as Neil Ivey set to make some subs here.
Yeah, you know, turning a team over is great, but to me, what is your turnover margin, right? Because if take the first half, for example, Syracuse turned Notre Dame over 10 times, but they had 11 turnovers of their own, and so you have not cashed in. In fact, we're at -1, honestly. So in this second half of action, I'm looking for Syracuse to capitalize on some turnovers and hold on to the ball themselves. Throughout the course of the season, their turnover margin is plus 1.8, so there's not that much of a difference, or plus 0.18, excuse me.
So Camila Cardoso got fouled. She'll shoot 2. Highest ranked recruit in program history, number 5 overall in the class. Had 11 points, 8 rebounds in the win over Pitt. Double-digit scoring in all games, but won this year. And I ask you this, Monica, with a player like Camila Cardoso at 6'7", you don't see that very often, but what's the skill or something she could work on to improve her game and become that next great big in the ACC, which, by the way, there are quite a few of them?
She already has such a tremendous package. I would honestly say just to continue to do what she's doing, but do it better, right? Like, I'm sure just by virtue of her being a freshman, there's a next level in her fitness journey as she develops a college basketball body. She already does a great job of running the rim. She has great hands around the rim. And so just as her body gets stronger and quicker, she'll be able to do what she does right now better.
Make at the buzzer of the shot clock there for Destiny Walker.
It was so.
Camila Cardoso is. Go ahead, Mom.
It was interesting watching Coach Ivey bring Walker off the bench. She's like, come on, let's go. I need you back in.
Still a 10-point lead for Notre Dame here with 8 in the third quarter.
And again, that was a great question, though, Sam, about Cardoso. Here, you know, she's a little bit flat-footed for me, but she's in the right position. She's at the center of that zone. And so just as she becomes more athletic, I think her game will grow and continue to improve.
How good is Destiny Walker off the bench? I mean, probably one of the best in the country at doing it, but 11 points now. Did start today, but still, I mean, she has kind of been known to be that power sub, if you will.
She's just so smooth. Destiny Walker's one of those players that's so smooth. And when she keeps it simple, she's at her best. Because sometimes she can get a little carried away, do a little too much, kind of force the issue. But today she's been very cerebral and made right reads.
Mangakahia stepping back, easy bucket for her. She could probably do that in her sleep. She's got 11.
And the lead is back to single digits. And here is that pressure.
Good turn. No finish for Brunel, though, as she claps the hands in disgust.
It's a great weak side rebound. That's one of the areas.
Another player we haven't seen a whole lot of today was Tiana Mangakahia. Only 2 points so far, coming off of a 23-point performance.
So, you know, sometimes it happens like that. But I thought in the first half she took some smart gambles, picked up a couple of steals. She has 2 steals on record, but had a couple deflections. Different role today, but I do think that her presence was felt in that first half.
Friendly roll on the road for Brunel, leading the way for Notre Dame here today. 15 points, 7 for 12 from the field. Stroutmana fighting to the basket, couldn't get it to go.
I don't mind that take by Stroutmana. In fact, I think it was a solid decision. But prior to that, I would love to see Cardoso seal that back line.
Here's Stroutmana for 3 in the corner. Yes, Stigna Stroutmana now has 7. The senior from Latvia. Brunel steps inside, 3-point line, misses, and Williams drags down the rebound.
Irish fortunate that Brunel didn't connect on that one because she's usually money from there.
Here comes Syracuse, 51-46, down by 5, and a timeout now for Notre Dame. Starting to hit some shots though, Monica. Watch out for the Cuse.
Definitely. How do you cut a lead? Well, you got to score more points than the other team. 3s count more than 2s. Mangakahia and Stroutmana getting in on the 3-point shooting action.
Well, we know the Carrier Dome to be home to some of the best athletes, some of the best scorers that you have ever seen, but in these times it's also used for COVID testing. 100,000 COVID-19 tests conducted in the fall semester inside the Carrier Dome, 36-hour turnaround for test results. 4,000 samples can be processed a day. And Monica, you know, the job that they're doing there in the Carrier Dome, and again, all of the first-line workers, we like to thank and appreciate them, and all of the testing that they do and sacrifices they make. You know, Syracuse was on a 20-day gap between games. This is serious stuff, and you see all the canceled, postponed games entering to today. Syracuse was privy to that, having a pause, but man, we of course are proud to be broadcasting ACC games, and we're proud when good things happen in the ACC off the floor as well.
Indeed, indeed, it has certainly been a challenging year all around the board, but I know, I can only imagine if I were still a college athlete, I certainly would have done everything I could to play as opposed to sitting at home doing nothing. So we applaud coaches, staff, administration, our production team, so many people across the board making sacrifices so that we can get through this season.
No doubt, Tiana Mangakahia quelled the storm that Syracuse had kind of built up. They were on a 10-2 run heading into that timeout that Niele Ivey called. There's a missed 3, and Brunel brings in the rebounds. The lead now back up to 8 for the Fighting Irish.
Miles back in the game as well, so her 4 minutes in the first half gave Coach Ivey enough confidence to put her back on the floor.
Good pass by Peoples, but a block. Here's Miles following up, no good.
Now, the previous possession, Sam, was textbook in terms of what Syracuse has to do to shift the zone. Kiera didn't hit that shot, but that was great, too. And that's the type of thing that you can't teach, right? Camila Cardoso is a big target. Her hands are ready. No one can get that pass. It's only where she can receive it. Great assist by Tiana Mangakahia.
Cardoso with 9 and 6 so far in this game. Kick to Mabry. Quick trigger in the corner, yes. Dara Mabry, back-to-back threes. She's got 8 now, and you do not want her to heat up. Here's a turnover. Miles underneath, puts it up and in. Olivia Miles. And here's a quick spark from Notre Dame.
So she may be looking for some Defensive Player of the Year awards at some point during her career?
I think that's a fair assumption.
Syracuse is getting looks, but they've just got to figure out a way to hit, and they've got to hold on to the basketball. I wasn't sure how Sam Brunel was so free to make that pass to Mabry, but I actually think there was a little drag screen action by Westbeld coming down, and then there's Brunel right on cue, free throw line extended.
17 now for Sam Brunel. That leads the team. Led all freshmen in ACC scoring last year, averaging 13.9. Only averaging 8 coming into this game, but she's going to add on to that. There's a long three. Emily Enksler. So the ball's starting to fall here in the third quarter for both these teams. Enksler with a steal here.
Great read by Enksler to jump that pass.
Good ball fake, good find.
Now we're playing high IQ basketball if you're the Syracuse Orange.
Brunel steps into another one and rattles that one home. She's gotten some friendly rolls here in the Carrier Dome.
She's been so poised today. I can't state that enough. This is a group that has been so poised.
So a 10-point lead for Notre Dame. Sam Brunel with 19 points to lead the way for the Fighting Irish. Welcome back. We've gone back and forth. Notre Dame and Syracuse battling it out. A 10-point lead for the Fighting Irish. Hey, keep in mind, Nothing But Net every Sunday is our weekly basketball studio show. We'll preview the week, look back at the best games from last week with highlights, analysis, and insight that only we can provide. This week's show is tonight at 8 Eastern following the Syracuse-NC State men's game right here on the ACC Network and, of course, on the ESPN app. So Sam Brunel has a season-high 19 points, season-high 4 assists. Monica, she came into this season, as Niele Ivey said, with an injury already. Then she acquired a foot injury that kind of hung around, so that kind of kept her from being the player that she was last year maybe. But look, at the end of the day, Sam Brunel is Sam Brunel. Everyone knows what she is capable of. She just hasn't really gotten the opportunity to show it, and she's showing it here now.
Indeed, scary moment. I thought Kiera Lewis collapsed a little bit there, but she seems to be good. But I agree with you, Sam. And last year, Sam was one of my favorite freshmen. In some kind of way, the schedule fell out that I was at Notre Dame what seemed like every other weekend to call their home games. But, you know, all of us, whether it's playing time, injuries, learning a new system, there's a little bit of built-in adversity when you talk about playing the game that you have. It doesn't always come easy, and I think that's what's happened to Sam, but I also believe that she's probably better for it. Coach Niele Ivey praised her as a great teammate, not just to Westbeld, who I love her working in the high-low action with, but to all of her teammates. So she's doggedly tough. She comes from a great family. She's going to be fine, and so it's good to see her have one of these outbursts today, but she's certainly going to be fine.
Some good conversations there between freshman and newer freshman Olivia Miles.
Because Maddie Westbeld is so wise, so wise. She's at least got this season under her belt where Olivia just got here.
Ball out of bounds, going to stay with the Fighting Irish. I can't imagine coming into a program that has kind of been together for so long and has built up preseason. Then you come in, get plugged in right away. And thrown into the thick of things. That cannot be easy.
It certainly isn't, Sam, and so credit to Miles in this game, and we mentioned Vantamiren doing the same thing at Boston College. However, I would counter that thought just a bit. Remember, this team has played 14 games so far this season. Could you imagine if Miles tried to do this under normal circumstances, how much further along this team probably would be? So, in a way, obviously it is under extraordinary circumstances that these true freshmen, I guess that's what I'm going to call them, have been allowed to make the jump early.
I think it's great that they're allowed to be doing that because a lot of these high school programs aren't playing. And there's Prohaska the long two, but you get the experience that you otherwise wouldn't get by just waiting and sitting at home.
Yeah, and I wonder, with this year of eligibility being given back, I wondered what that would look like in terms of roster spots. So essentially, this is just almost a redshirt year. Well, she's actually playing games, so. But it doesn't matter.
Right. In football, you can redshirt and still play a couple of games, and
right.
I guess this is just kind of something similar, but yes, still maintain eligibility, which is great, allowing these players to make the best out of a otherwise negative situation.
Now, back to game action specifically, though, as Syracuse is doing their best to chip away at this lead, they've got to string together multiple stops. It's very simple formulaic. Here would be one. They go on the other end. If they can score, then we're talking about a 5-point deficit. Kiara Lewis did a yeoman's job at the point guard spot in the absence of Tiana last year. Here, I love that part of Tiana's game. The ball fake gets the defense to bite, and then she's cool, calm, and collected, squared up, ready to knock down a three.
Already more than her season average of 9.5 points a game. She's got 14. That leads Syracuse. That shot rattles off the rim from Enxler.
I actually thought she had the initial three look. I didn't think she needed the dribble.
Miles able to find the hands of Westbeld. Whether it was knocked off of Enxler, I'm not sure.
I tell you what, Olivia Miles comes in as a true point guard. I mean, it feels like for a couple of years now, we've had these two guards that are moving over to the one spot for Notre Dame, and they've done a solid job, but a true one, you already see that in Olivia's game.
They've asked Era Mabry to kind of switch over to the one this year, but the addition of Miles could be interesting. Nice move by Lewis, splitting a pair, but can't finish at the rim. 7 seconds left to go here in the third quarter. Here's Miles in the corner for three, no good. Follows up, gets the rebound, puts it up and misses. So a pair of shots missed by Olivia Miles to end the third quarter, but Notre Dame still on top, 65-58 as we head to the fourth. Buckle up, we got a good one in the Dome. Welcome back. We are to the fourth quarter inside the Carrier Dome. Notre Dame up 65-58. On the sidelines for Coach Q is Erica Morrow, former face of the program from 07 to 2011. You see the fifth most career points in Syracuse history, second most minutes played in Syracuse history. Of course, McDonald's All-American. But Monica, do you recall playing against Erica in the Carrier Dome?
Do I?
There we go.
Oh wow. Was not expecting that photo. I definitely remember playing against E, and it was competitive. Plenty of trash talking between our two teams when we were all on the floor. We had some really great battles with Syracuse. It's super cool to see her on the sideline. She had a tremendous relationship with Coach Q then, and obviously it has continued now that he's brought her on her staff. There's a wealth of knowledge there. I hope that her Syracuse young ladies are listening to her. But I remember some battles with E, and let me tell you, E had a little bit of a mouth on her. She wasn't afraid to talk trash.
Well, you played well. By the way, we'll pull up that picture again because I got to see it again.
My
but
God.
You played well in that game, too. You had 20-plus points, if I recall.
Yeah, I used to get off a little bit against Q's. If it wasn't points, it was rebounds. I remember a game I had 10 rebounds at the Dome. I couldn't shoot. I couldn't hit that day, and I said to my assistant, "What you need?" He said, "Give me 10." I was like, "All right."
Give me 10, I'll give you 20.
There you go.
Jump ball underneath. Possession arrow points to Notre Dame. Here's a look at this picture. Monica, you look intense. Give me that ball.
So we ran a 1-2-2. I was at the top, and that was my job. So yeah, and I literally used to have to be tasked with slowing down Erica.
Not an easy job.
No, it was.
Remember,
it was
that
not.
was back when Syracuse was in the Big East too. So.
And that was under the Big East configuration. And you saw all of those numbers that she put up in Syracuse lore. So that was not an easy task.
That's going to be a backcourt violation. Shot clock is running down as well.
Now this is.
Yeah.
We've got contrasting. I shouldn't say philosophies, but we've got contrasting areas of growth happening, right? You and I have talked about, and we've had a Notre Dame game. We had Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. closing down the stretch is a sign of a maturing team. And this obviously is very new. You've got lots of youth on the floor for Notre Dame, and you've got a new head coach. On the other end, Kiera Lewis, this is not her first rodeo. Neither is it for Engstler. Mangakahia obviously has returned. Stratmana and Jaldi Tabdi have played valuable minutes in big-time games. So which team is able to exert their will on the other in this fourth quarter?
I'll tell you something. Somebody might want to put a hand in the face of Tiana Mangakahia. She's now 5 for 8 from beyond the arc. Notre Dame up by 4.
Tiana Mangakahia. Wow, I just messed up her name. I apologize. But what has not been messed up has been her three-point shooting today. She's hit 5, which ties for her career high. But in general, she's got 17 points, 11 points in the second half. In the second half, she's been so poised and so calm, and her teammates have found her an opportunity to score. Big-time players look for big-time moments in big-time games, and that's what she's done in the second half.
Tied for a career high, 5 threes in the game. Syracuse close to leading the ACC in a lot of categories. I will say what they do lead the ACC in is some of the toughest names to pronounce. But
that was supposed to be her moment, and I messed it up, Sam. I feel
it's okay, Monica. We forgive you.
Okay. All right.
You'll get another chance, I'm sure, as she's on fire tonight.
Indeed. And Tiana is also such a good sport about her name, but we obviously want to do our due diligence to get it right. Here we go. We've had a few more free throws shot in this second half, but still not many. Syracuse has only been to the line. They're 4 of 6 from the line. Notre Dame is 3 of 3 from the free throw line. Kiera and Tiana, but particularly Kiera, can attack the zone and really find those gaps.
Trailing by 4. 7:35 left to go here in the game. Shot clock winding down here for Notre Dame. Still haven't really set up a play. Mabry trying to dump down to Westbeld. Moving and twisting, able to get a shot off, but won't fall. Here's Emily Engstler for 3. No good foul underneath.
Emily's wishing. She's shooting and wishing a little bit. You could tell by her body language instead of just shooting and trusting her instincts and the reps that she's gotten in. I know it's tough as a shooter when you don't see that ball going in the rim, but you got to trust your mechanics. You expect this ball to go to Cardoso here, or if it doesn't go straight to her, that she would be involved in some sort of screen action.
There it is. You called it,
We'll
Monica.
take that.
Well done.
Very simple. I mean, when you got that height, you don't make it difficult.
Foul goes against Sam Brunel.
Not much that Brunel can do about this. Clocking in at about 6'1". Cardoso at 6'7". Good on her to keep that ball high and not bring it down to the defender.
14 points on the night for the freshman. All right, keep in mind, Wednesday is National Signing Day, and the Huddle crew will break it all down, the ACC recruits, with our Signing Day special, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on the ACC Network and the ESPN app. Cornette, Eric Mack, EJ Manuel, and Mark Rick will break down the top storylines for each school and talk to coaches from across the conference as Maddie Westbeld returns favor.
Maddie Westbeld, physically ready, basketball IQ. This is a great read. We've seen both of these teams capitalize on that inside seal versus the zone. Good finish by the freshman.
Lead down to 3. Syracuse has been climbing back this whole second half. Here's Cardoso. That shot well off the mark, and Olivia Miles bringing up the ball. You know, it could take a little bit of time for Notre Dame to adjust to really having a true 1. Never mind that Olivia Miles is playing in her first collegiate basketball game, but Dara Mabry has kind of been used to playing in this spot. So you're seeing a little bit of miscommunication as Mabry fires long range. That misses, and Prohaska can't save it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would use the word miscommunication so much as I would say learning, Sam, right?
Yeah.
Again, this is Olivia's literally her first rodeo. And Dara is a great shooter. She's done a great job at the one spot. Obviously, she's a little bit more of a natural too. And again, it speaks to all of the oddities of the season, literally learning in a game. There hasn't been a ton of time to work on this lineup and the rotations in practice.
Going the other way, Mangakahia thought it was poked out by a Notre Dame player. Something else Niele Ivey talked to us about was that she is very comfortable having Maddie Westbeld carry the ball up the floor. She is able to dribble the ball with great composition, and she can do everything, really. Ooh. Timeout for Niele Ivey in Notre Dame.
I feel nervous, Sam. I know Coach Ivey's nervous.
We'll be back in 30 seconds after Niele Ivey talks it over with her team up 3. Well, if you're like Monica and myself on the East Coast, kind of in the northeast part of the United States, you're seeing some snow right now, and Syracuse seeing some snow on their campus. But it is hot inside the Carrier Dome. A couple of freshmen playing really well in the month of January. Freshman of the week, Maddie Westbeld, and Haley Van Lith, of course, at Louisville, playing great this season. Syracuse holding the last 2 with Williams and Cardoso, the reigning ACC Freshman of the Week.
Cardoso just came up with a big-time block to give her team an extra possession.
Lewis ties up the game.
Man.
67 all.
Here we go, partner. Here we go. And Syracuse energized by the tie. Kiera Lewis also achieving the 1,000 points mark. Congratulations to her.
Another block for Cardoso, and it's going with Syracuse.
Wow. Defense leading to offense. This is my favorite sequence in the game of basketball. 6-7, get that out of here. And then your point guard is hunting the paint, heads up play. Mangakahia and Lewis work so well together. Lewis finding her spot, had been a little streaky, but when it matters most, she comes up with a 3.
1,000 career points for Kiera Lewis. Congratulations, and no better way to do it, or time to do it, to tie up the game in the 4th quarter.
Certainly. Now, we're back at all even, and which team is going to play more loose and confident in the waning minutes of this game?
Lewis falling a little bit short there on that shot.
Yeah. Not so great.
Brunel, nice bounce pass down to Mickey Vaughn. Tough shot, tough make.
Great finish. We haven't seen a ton from Michaela since the 1st quarter, but she's great around the rim, finishing in contact. Oh, wow, good save.
Long 3 for Mangakahia, off the mark. Strong rebound for the freshman Williams, who puts it up and gets fouled.
Couple things on that possession that were really good for Syracuse, Sam. Well, the first part, the force to Cardoso, not ideal, but this part, very good. You've got 3 white jerseys crashing, looking for a second chance opportunity, and it produces a benefit for Priscilla Williams.
Williams makes the first there. 7 points on the afternoon. By the way, 4 personal fouls on Michaela Vaughn in this one.
She's an 84% shooter in conference play from the free throw line, so you expect her to knock those down. This is great. I mean, I'm enjoying this. You and I have the best seats in the house for sure. I'm sure that the coaches are, starting to get a little bit nervous, but now these are the moments in which teams grow up. These are the moments in which teams build character. We're getting into the dog days of conference play, and this is a game that both of these teams need.
All tied again and a turnover. That pass by Mabry into the hands of Cardoso. Under 4 left to go in the game. Mangakahia driving the paint. Nice feed. Can't finish, though. Back to Cardoso. Wow. The dishes from Mangakahia. She has been doing that her whole career.
Yeah, it is arguably one of the best parts of her game, her ability to distribute and find her teammates. And Sam Brunel comes up hobbling after that play a little bit.
Syracuse with their first lead since 15-13 with 3:35 left to go in the first quarter. Looking to add to it here. Williams with the big 3. She's got 11. Syracuse with 4 players in double digits now as they stretch the lead to 5.
This is the most active that we've seen the Syracuse defense. That's 3 consecutive stops, 2 block shots, and a turnover, and they now have the lead in this ball game.
Partially blocked. Cardoso has had her hands in the shooting eyes of everybody, and she adds on the offensive glass.
Man.
Wow, a 9-0 run with 2:41 left to go, Monica.
The way that Camila Cardoso runs the floor, she gets her hand long length on this block. Okay, my teammates got it. I'm going to get up the floor. Or in this possession, Priscilla Williams, we talked about her hitting 8 in a game this season. She's not afraid to launch from behind the 3. The freshman, she's on the radar, number 5 in her class. She's been freshman of the week, rightfully so. Check out her impact on this ball game, particularly down the stretch, catching and finishing in traffic off the inbounds play, earning a trip to the three-point line, or free throw line, excuse me. And then here, defense. Man, defense wins basketball games, and she helps her team take or tie, I think, was this 3-point shot by Kiera Lewis. But that was all because of Camila Cardoso denying access in the paint.
18 points today, career high 9 blocks, searching for another double-double here today. 14-point swing in the first 7:19 of the fourth quarter. Syracuse an 18-4 fourth quarter spurt. So what a turnaround that we have seen in this game. Monica, you knew this was going to be a good one. You just had a feeling, even when Notre Dame had a big lead, but Syracuse was just too good and had too many talented players to let this one slip away at home.
Yeah, you know, and I was very impressed with how Notre Dame started this ball game, particularly in the first half. I thought they were incredibly poised. As you see Sam Brunel getting that ankle retaped, hopefully that's not the same leg ankle that she was already struggling with in terms of that lingering foot injury. But again, I think we've seen it throughout college basketball on both the men's and women's sides. The teams that seem to be able to navigate best have upperclassmen who are familiar with the system. Now, funny to say that, though, Sam, a little bit of an asterisk, because the freshman Camila Cardoso has been huge down the stretch for this Syracuse squad, but she's flanked by upperclassmen who know what to do and have been in tight games and won tight games.
10 of her 18 points for Cardoso coming in the second half. Vaughn able to break the press with ease. Kiera Lewis all over Dara Mabry. Ball tipped up and into Lewis's hands. Syracuse ball. Some costly turnovers for Notre Dame here in the fourth quarter.
Now it becomes certainly a time and score. Syracuse obviously has the liberty to eat a little bit more clock, but they certainly don't want to turn the ball over because Notre Dame is still a potent team if they're able to get out and transition off of a steal.
Third turnover in the fourth quarter for Notre Dame. Here's Lewis with the hands. Misses the shot. Westbeld knocks it out of bounds. Going to stay with Syracuse with 1:50 left to go. Fresh shot clock as well. A 20-second shot clock, excuse me, as it resets to 20.
We're getting close to Notre Dame is going to have to start fouling.
Yeah.
I imagine you let this possession go with 10 seconds remaining on the shot clock, but you certainly don't want to give up a basket.
Mangakahia for three. That would be big. Didn't fall. Fight for the rebound on the floor. Going against Notre Dame. How about the battle from Emily Enxler?
Yeah, Enxler and Westbell getting tied up on the weak side. I believe Westbell got popped because she had her arm inside of Enxler on that block out. A couple years ago, concerted effort to be mindful of the hooks and holds. I don't think obviously there was no malice intended, just a basketball play.
Second personal foul against Westbell. How about the offensive rebound off the free throw miss?
Wow.
And another foul. That's huge from Kiera Lewis there.
And that is another example of the experience showing through, right? Even though boxing out off of a free throw line is basic things they teach you in middle school basketball, Lewis mixing it up and understanding the urgency, what this offensive rebound could do in terms of helping to salt away this ball game.
So Syracuse in the bonus. First free throw went down for Lewis. Misses the second. This time Mabry secures the rebound. Notre Dame needs to find some offense here. Monica, who can they go to get a couple quick baskets?
Well, Destiny Walker is back on the floor. Yeah, she's back on the floor, but honestly, I'm looking to Michaela Vaughn and Westbeld in that high post with that cutting action that was working so well. They don't have the luxury of time, so there's a lot of patting the ball happening right now. They got to get something up and going toward the rim. Mabry has the range, and she can shoot off of the bounce, so perhaps the screen action for her. But the high-low game had worked so well throughout the course of this ball game, and it doesn't have to take a ton of time.
Westbeld has it picked away by Enxler. Great hands from Emily Enxler.
Enxler doing a great job just sitting and defending. As much as we celebrated the youth that was on the floor for Notre Dame, here is where you start to see it just a little bit. Enxler and Syracuse just been the more mature and poised team down the stretch.
Sam Brunell coming back in after getting that ankle taped up. Westbeld will go to the bench. So good to see her back in the game. She's been dealing with quite a few injuries this year. Man, what a job by Syracuse. And you said it, Monica, their experience really carried them down the stretch in this game and now have grown to a 10-point lead.
Yeah, and it's not just the experience in terms of the ability to score, but their defense. They clamped down on Notre Dame's shooting. Notre Dame's been 2 of 12 from the field, 16% in the fourth quarter.
Mabry way downtown. That's off the mark, and Lewis hauls in the rebound. A 12-0 run over the last 4 minutes. Brunell will foul Lewis on the Big S at half court.
Not as many in the scoring column for Syracuse, but still the balance, some of that balance scoring that they were able to achieve against Pittsburgh carries over. You've got 4 in double figures: Cardoso, Williams, Lewis, and Mangakahia. Kiera Lewis, I'm expecting her to knock down free throws. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Misses both, but again, another offensive rebound. This time Mangakahia off the free throw. Olivia Miles credited with the foul there.
Lewis, Kiera Lewis, who was there previously, 66%-ish from the free throw line. And now Tiana is there. She shoots 81% from the free throw line.
Monica, when you look back at this game, and we mentioned earlier how Notre Dame has unfortunately come on the bad side of these games when they have the lead at halftime or have a lead in the third quarter. Does this one feel a little bit different than, say, the BC or UNC losses late, or is it still kind of the same one? Or just the same things happening for Notre Dame?
That's a really interesting question, Sam. Ultimately, it's the same things happening, right? Like it's not closing. It's losing your focus down the stretch. But I think in this particular game, Syracuse did wake up, and so I would give Syracuse a little bit more credit. But and again, for me, this game reminded me of the youth of Coach Ivy's first year with this group in terms of Notre Dame. They actually had more turnovers in the first half than they did in the second half. They had 10 in the first half and only 4 in the second half, so it wasn't so much turnovers. They went a little bit cold offensively, but I just think Camila Cardoso sort of woke up, and Syracuse started to hit threes.
So Notre Dame's going to try and get a quick shot off, I'd imagine, off the foot of Lewis.
Definitely. If things hold with 30 seconds or so left to go in this ball game, tough loss for Notre Dame, but this is encouraging for Syracuse, considering that Coach Q still feels like this is an early in the season team. This is a very mature response.
Enxler gets the rebound off the miss. Shot clock is off as the clock winds down here in the fourth quarter in the Carrier Dome. And Coach Q was pretty adamant with us. He was saying, let's put some respect on my team here because my girls are playing really well. And despite the loss to Clemson, they've won a couple of really good games. And this is another one here at home. 81-69, your final, as Syracuse improves to 9-3, 6 wins in the conference. Notre Dame drops to 6-5 in ACC play. So, Monica, your overall thoughts on this game, the way it started, the way it finished for Syracuse. Maybe it wasn't that complete game that Coach Q was searching for, but you get a win at the end of the day, and that's what matters.
Well, I asked Coach as we were preparing for this game, when is a half or a game that he thought his team was playing some of their best basketball? And he actually said the second half of the game against Clemson, which is a game that they lost. I thought this game mirrored some of that. When they started to get going, they found Camila Cardoso. Emily Enxler was on the back line. You saw Kiara Lewis and Tiana Mangakahia hunting the paint and finding shots and forcing this Notre Dame defense to have to make some decisions. But on the defensive end, to me, when they picked up their intensity, that's when the tide started to turn for the Syracuse Orange.
It's a great stat on the bottom, too. The way Syracuse performed in the fourth quarter was amazing. 23-4 in the fourth quarter in this one. So we saw the debut of Olivia Miles in this game. We talked about her in the first half. Here's what she did in this first collegiate game, getting a first taste of collegiate basketball. She played fairly well.
She did. Didn't necessarily wow you with points, but you don't expect that from her very first game. But what she did show was a ton of confidence and a great handle on the game of basketball. She's going to be the point guard of the future for this Irish squad, and that's plenty for Irish fans to get excited about.
Camila Cardoso, the freshman phenom, really turned on the Jets, I think, in the second half, but specifically in the fourth quarter with these blocked shots.
Absolutely. There is no question about that. Whether it was when she really started to use her height to her advantage, whether it was blocking shots or just being a big offensive target that no one could contest when she was around the rim. I thought Cardoso was huge. And yes, she's a freshman, but it was the experience that flanked her that really helped Syracuse to get this victory.
So 81-69 is your final. Syracuse coming away with the win. They've got Georgia Tech coming up. That will be a big game. That is their following game, Monica. So keep in mind, Syracuse is a team that still has something to prove, but they played well here today. Syracuse coming away with the win, 81-69 for Monica McNutt and our entire crew in Syracuse. I'm Sam Ravitch saying so long. By the way, our crew going to hang around. They got another game coming up at 6, NC State and Syracuse here on the ACC Network. We'll see you later.